Hey, Scorpio, and happy 2024. Happy fake New Year. JK. I mean, like, happy New Year for real, but also it's winter. It's the end of the year. Why? We always want to skip over endings and jump right to new beginnings. And there is still some time to close some loops and shed some skins and let things die off. And I just feel like it's my witchly duty to remind us all that this is the ending season. So let's not jump right ahead to new resolutions and new year, new me. Like, okay, yeah, and let's like spring equinox, like spring into the new year. That sounds and makes like a lot more sense to me. Anyhow, hi, I'm Madeline, if we haven't before, and I am super excited to do your reading for January, Scorpio. So as usual, we'll pull some tarot cards to get into the story of your month, and then to cap off the reading, we will pull a couple of cards from the Star Codes Astro Oracle deck to get you a little more direction from Spirit. And I want to invite you, Scorpio, in these few moments as I shuffle your cards, to, if you would like to, take a deep breath, and if you feel comfortable, maybe even close your eyes and set an intention. Maybe connect with your people or with your own higher self, and set an intention to receive a message during this reading. Maybe there's been something specific going on in your life, or maybe you are just looking for some type of guidance, and I invite you to welcome that guidance to come in and resonate with you. Anytime we tune into a reading, it's a powerful thing. It's a portal, and it becomes even more powerful when we engage with it on purpose. You know what I'm saying? Okay. So, Spirit, want to connect with the energy of Scorpio. Scorpio sun, Scorpio moon, Scorpio rising and dominant folks. The month of January in 2024. What's going on with Scorpio? Where do they find themselves in their story, Spirit? What do you want to point out to them for their highest good, for their fulfillment, their peace, their abundance, their joy? Helpful or hindering influences. We want to know the truth of what surrounds Scorpio in the month of January for their highest good. Any elements from the past as they pertain to the present and the unfolding future. Anything you want to share with Scorpio for their highest good. Perfect. Got a couple bonus cards. Let's go. Spirit is really highlighting that exhale. And reminding you not to live in the inhale. I haven't even looked at your cards yet, but it's like it kind of related to what they were saying about this is the season of like die off and truly ending and truly going to sleep, hibernation before we leap back into action. There's this feeling of breathe deep on purpose. When you can become conscious of it, notice maybe how shallow you could be breathing, and take a nice deep breath, in for 4, out for 8, in for 4, out for 8, to kind of recalibrate. No rhyme intended. Okay, let's get into the story of your cards. Okay, so 'tis the season a little bit, okay? It looks like there is maybe a little bit of overindulgence was had. The first thing I want to say about that is don't blame and don't shame yourself if you're feeling a little hungover on whatever level. Like, could be literal, could be emotional, could be vulnerability hangover, could be had a fight with family back home or etc. And I'm kind of still needing to recover from that. That's just what I'm hearing. So try to go easy on yourself. There's a very like heady energy, like very mental, very analytical, very logical, um, and it feels a little bit like a trap that you don't need to, kind of like obsessive thoughts, repetitive thoughts, um, a little bit, quote unquote, negative thoughts. And I'm not demonizing negative thoughts, but it's like we can start to kind of go down a drain. And you know what I'm talking about? Where it's like, okay, this is a little too much. So there might be a little too much going on right now in your head. Let's come to the center of your spread. So here's you, Scorpio, coming in powerfully, King of Swords. Kings, nothing to do with sex and gender, everything to do with personality type. So you showing up like, like a boss, like a leader, like someone that other people will tend to defer to. And the King of Swords is the king of the mind, king of words, king of messages. So what Spirit is saying is, for all the world, it looks like you're on top of everything. Like anybody looking from the outside would see that you're on top of everything. But crossing your reading, so i.e., what is kind of affecting your life or showing up in your life the most at this time? So the devil, the shadow, the temptation, the overindulgence or overdoing it. And reminder, when I say overindulgence, yeah, like sure, we can be talking about maybe substances or food or etc. We can also be talking about like a workaholism. Are you chugging that workahol down and it's like, nope, nobody can do this but me, and I'm totally deceiving myself, which can be a little bit of the devil, right? I'm telling myself, nope, there's no other way to do this as long as I just don't look that way. Well, why don't we, the story continues. Okay, the plot thickens. Crowning your reading, Two of Swords. This is why a little stuck in your head energy. In the basement, the unseen or unacknowledged Three of Swords. So here's the king and the representative of the unseen and the unacknowledged. Pain unacknowledged, addiction unacknowledged, voluntary bondage unacknowledged, like, oh, this is a dead end job, or this is a toxic relationship, but I need to be here. I need to save them, or they need me, or like, this is my soulmate and my twin flame, or whatever, some shit that like keeps you there, even though all signs point to no. This is definitely not true for every Scorpio. So please, like, don't take that and run with it. Great time to remind you, like, these are general readings. So I'm getting messages from more than one Scorpio. If something doesn't resonate with you, then it is for someone else, and don't let it worry you. Okay. Many of you are in thriving relationships, but some of you, and you're going to know who the fuck you are like, I'm sad, I'm heartbroken, this isn't working for me, this is kind of a constant battle. Maybe I'm even having to run around to get what it is that I need from other places and other people, all in a bid to keep things the way they are. Because again, from the outside, everything looks right. I don't want to fuck it up. So I will just sit here with my broken heart and I won't acknowledge it. So you notice in the Two of Swords, she's sitting here with her swords crossed, her blindfold on, and her back is to the sea. The sea is our emotions. The sea is our feelings, our memories, and the sea is you, Scorpio. So are you kind of soldiering on despite your feelings or trying to ignore your feelings? I say stop. I don't think it's a good idea. I think you need to acknowledge that there is something that you are disappointed in or something that was lost over the course of 2023. And again, I'm hearing different things. Like for some of you, it's like we literally lost someone. We're in mourning. We're mourning because we lost someone very close to us or precious to us. Obviously, that requires a lot of um, heartfelt connection and grieving. And grieving is natural and healthy. It's when we maybe begin to dwell and we stay in those waters, right? That they can start to become debilitating. So grief and mourning are healthy and natural. Fixating and replaying and running the tape back or running back to that memory over and over and over and over and replaying it, that's what's not healthy. Do you understand like the distinction that I'm making here? So Acknowledge your pain. Spirit is saying a very useful phrase, which is make appointments with your emotions. Sometimes things come up out of nowhere, i.e., out of the unseen depths of our soul, right? Or our intuition or our higher self or etc. Um, and we're not able to deal with them at that time. Maybe we're at work. Maybe our partner just said something that triggered the shit out of us, and we know that now is not the best time to talk about it or whatever, but we've got to go. We've got to make time. We've got to make time for our tougher emotions. It's just in our nature that we don't usually need to make time for, like, hey, look at my happy emotions. Like, we've got plenty of time for that. It's those negative ones. It's the depression or the anxiety or the fear or the dread that we have like trouble sitting down face to face with and communicating. Hello. The deep, scary ones. And you, Scorpio, are a deep feeler. So it's not like you to ignore your feelings. And it's not going to work for you. You are a feeler. You are a water person. I'm hearing this honking in the background as I say this. You don't need to hold on. In the place where you find yourself, Seven of Swords, there's a little bit of a need to like retreat and regroup. You might be holding on to some things, a couple of swords that you don't need to be carrying. Let's pretend that these are the two swords and she finally at some point decided, you know what, I'm going to put these motherfuckers down, take off this blindfold and go wade into these waters and see what is waiting for me. And this guy is taking off like, oh man, I can't carry those. So let us say that you uncross your swords. Let us say that once you do that, you're able to look at your spilled cups. And that when you do that, you're able to turn and look at the two cups that are behind you. What is still wonderful? What is still possible? What is still very much present and fulfilling in your life? Okay? I know that sounds a little ironic or backwards or something to say that, like, hey, you need to face that you're sad so that you can be happy. But that's what I'm hearing and that's what I see. Our hearts are deep. And sometimes the heartbreaks we suffer and the things and the people that we lose, they dig these deep, deep wells in us, and they will feel empty until we allow them to fill. It hurts, but it has made you deeper. And it is presenting you with epiphanies. You know, Spirit is saying humans are so uncomfortable with the fact that life is eternal change. And it's like, it's so true. We keep, and me too, you know what I mean? That's what I'm saying. Like, as humans, is like, we look for certainty. We look for the figuring out the right way to do it. Okay, if I do it like this, I'll never get hurt again. Or if I do it like this, I'll have success, as if like life is either linear or like straight up and then we get to a peak and then we just live there, when really it's like, it's more like a wavelength or like a wheel, you know, is the Wheel of Fortune, which is very much present in your reading. We'll talk about it. This is a good thing. But it's around and around, it's up and down, it's up and down, it's up and down. And to try to avoid pain will have us jumping into all kinds of meat grinders. Oh, I really don't want to experience the pain and the static of initiating this conversation with my partner about this thing that is still pissing me off, you know, a year later or whatever. Like, I'm still really heartbroken and I haven't come close to you in a long time. And I don't want to have that conversation with you. So I'm going to avoid it. And then this way we end up breaking up in like 3 years because we never were able to mend this one bridge that we needed to get across to each other. Select the short-term hurt over the long-term. You know what I mean? Like pulling out the splinter in your palm rather than being like, ooh, but that pulling out is going to hurt, so I better just leave that in there. Maybe it'll work itself out. Nope, it's just going to get infected and it'll hurt. And first it's a dull throb, and then over time, when you just gently brush against something, it's going to be excruciating. So pull out the thorn. Sitting in the past is this Hanged Man. looking at things from a different perspective because something turns your life all the way upside down. Being in limbo, being in pause. Some of you may have experienced maybe some even type of like medical issue, yours or someone close to you, where it was like, oh, stop everything, we're going to, the hospital, or things like that, where pause, everything dramatically paused, and now everything is different. Like my perspective on everything has shifted. My world has been turned upside down. That's what I'm kind of hearing. And this is sitting in the past. So I don't feel that you need to like worry about this. It's like this happened before. Something happened that turned everything upside down and brought you into this feeling of limbo. And the King of Swords likes nothing more than control, and like does not deal well with the idea of being the hanged one, does not deal well with being in limbo, because they want certainty. They want to know the truth and do the truth, and sometimes the truth is a little harder to know and a little more complex and layered than the King of Swords would like to think, you know? What do you need to forgive yourself for? What do you need to forgive yourself for and let go of? Let's come back to the fact that it's winter and it's die off season and it's the time to close cycles on purpose. What do you need to stop punishing yourself for? Or what do you need to go in and finally really face and mourn to its full extent so that you can move on when the time comes? These are good questions to ask yourself. I feel, Scorpio, that you are at like a diverging path. One way leads to this. Four of Cups, feeling like, yes, the blessing will always be present because the universe is always offering us opportunities to grow, opportunities to wake up, opportunities to notice and open our hearts and things like that. So that will never end. You are loved unconditionally. Like you are loved and supported unconditionally, and whatever choices you make, Spirit will always be there trying to give you the best of what is available at that point, right? So one direction brings you this way, where of course Spirit and Source is still reaching out to you, but you are fixated on some old spilled 3 cups. One path leads that way where you're fixated on, I'm going to sit right here and until it shows up in this certain way or whatever, I'll be right here. I'm not doing anything. The other way, the way that involves forgiving yourself and allowing yourself to move forward, the way that involves enjoying and appreciating so much what is present and abundant right here, right now, especially in terms of love, that leads you to this future. Sitting in your future, the wishes coming true card, 9 of Cups, so abundant, so pleased with myself, so totally fulfilled. And sitting in the key position is the Wheel of Fortune. When you push the wheel, Spirit pushes with you. They're all about consent. Spirit is not going to run around pushing wheels in your life that you are not like making any moves toward or taking any initiative. You get the wheel rolling and Spirit will keep it rolling, okay? If you want to change in your life, think about what would fulfill you and what maybe pain have you been ignoring or sublimating, or on the other side, fixating on to the exclusion of what is good in your life. Mourn what you need to mourn so that you can empty out those cups, collect them, clean them, and prepare them to be filled again by something new, something totally different, something befitting of your current evolution. You're a new person now. You've made new choices. New things are becoming available all the time. Do not hold on to the past. Let it go. Face whatever maybe you've been hiding from or trying to be stronger than, because that's really what I feel. Scorpios aren't known for hiding from, tough truths. It's more like, okay, yeah, that is the tough truth and I have to live with it, and not necessarily. Okay? Okay. Let's pull a couple cards for you from the Star Codes Oracle deck. Spirit, want to get a little more guidance to weave into this reading for Scorpio in January. Wow. Well, we knew that. The climate transits, and transits are the way that the planets are moving at this moment. So we have like the current transits of, the moon moving, blah blah blah. Venus just entered Sagittarius, for example. Mercury goes direct in Sagittarius on the day of this reading. These are transits. So the climate, the current transits of your life are indicating tension. Square, semi-square, and quincunx angles produce tension. But here's a reminder that there can be good kinds of tension. For example, we talked about not being able to reach each other across a certain bridge and not mending a certain bridge. Well, bridges require tension, right? But it's all about the type and quality of tension. How about sexual tension? You know what I'm talking about? But tension that is, I'm not going to move till you move. Well, I'm not going to move until you move, is there's nothing is produced from that. So if the climate contains tension, as these cards indicate, what shall I do with that tension? How shall I interact with this type of friction? Again, the same way, there's sexual tension, there is pleasurable friction, right? And then there's irritating friction. And a lot of it has to do with the degree of pressure, which is something that Spirit is saying. So look at the pressure points in your life. Do a little reassessing. It's die-off season. What could afford to go so that you can move forward with joy toward your wishes coming true? More of what you appreciate, please. Please and thank you. You deserve. And I appreciate you, Scorpio. Thank you for listening to this reading. I truly hope it is helpful for you. And if I don't see you before then I hope I will see you in your reading next week. Till then, bye bye.